This isn't gonna work well.
It's fun.
If you're thinking about getting into model railroading or you're already an addict, boy, do we have a project for you. In this episode, we're gonna, boy, all that's coming up right now. Hey, welcome to It's My Railroad, the how-to show for regular people. On this show, we celebrate regular people building their model railroads. You ain't gonna find any expert people doing expert things. Just a regular guy building his model railroad, because that's just how I rail. Anyway, if you're into that sort of thing, why not just subscribe? And then don't forget to push that little bell icon so you can catch future videos. Okay, just before we really get cracking here, a little bit of follow-up to last week's episode where I showed you how I made these awesome removable tunnels. Now, I got a little feedback, people saying, Steve, isn't that overkill? Steve, why do you need to build a removable tunnel? Steve, just have it disappear into a big black cavern. And, you know, that's all fine and well and everything, but here's my situation over here. When I sit down and I'm looking through those tunnels and my little choo-choo train comes running up through there, what I see through the tunnel are my golf clubs on the other side of the room. That doesn't work for me. I have the back of the layout open so I can reach in and clean the track and get to any derailed cars or whatever. It's just smart to have that kind of access. But the compromise is, or the trade-off is, I can see through the layout. So what I did is make these removable tunnels. So once I stuff the tunnels in place, I look, trains disappear through the tunnel, no golf clubs on the horizon, and all is well with my model railroad. So anyway, we're going to get a little bit more into that as we get into the episode. And speaking of getting into the episode, I say we just do it right now. Hey rail fans, welcome back to the hobby room, to the Brown Smith Railroad and our Fertile Valley project that we're currently working on. Hey, today is Thursday, March 21st, and today I had to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get my driver's license renewed. It expired on my birthday. Who knew that was a thing? It caught me by surprise, so I had to drive down there. Well, if you've been to the DMV, and I'm sure you have, it normally takes like all day to hang out there. But I got done really early, so boom, model railroad time on a day where I'd normally be working somewhere. So here's what I'd like to try to sneak in and get done today. I'd like to build this plane in here that we're gonna have the orchard on. There's also gonna be a little piece of road that cuts through it. And we're gonna do a little pink stuff structural kind of junk here that I'll show you. This means though that I've got to do a little customizing over on the logging camp. I'll show you that in a second. But if you recall, I promised the logging camp module I wouldn't take the Sawzall to it again. But I'm gonna do it because it's gotta be done. Sorry, logging camp module. Just before we jump on that though, let's roll back here and let me give you an update on something else I did to the removable tunnels right back here. After both of the removable tunnels were built and ready to go, I went ahead and I added this little piece right here. What this does is it allows the tunnel to sort of line up right where it needs to go every time. This way, coming in from the back of the layout, you see I can just pull it out and remove it. But then when it comes time to put it back in, we just smush it back in and it goes right to where it's supposed to go every time. Later on, we're gonna go build the tunnel portals that go over both and go ahead and blend that up into the mountainous scenery. And then on both of the removable tunnels, I glued this little piece of cardboard on that acts as a stop. So when I'm sending it into that extruded foam board cutout, it stops right where it needs to stop every time. Makes putting it in real easy. I also beveled the inside edges, the leading edges, so that it sort of works its way in perfect every time. Really easy to install, pretty proud of that. So that's that. Let's head over and take a look at what we're gonna do over there. If you've been following along for a while, you know that the logging camp module used to connect over here to the port, and this track used to go to the Portsmouth yard. This was the old coal trestle, and this road right here used to head over to the port. Well, we got rid of the port, right? The port's not going here anymore. It's Fertile Valley instead. So we'll go ahead and pull the I love this cold trestle, by the way. We'll pull this out of the way. And so what you see here is kind of what we're dealing with. Now, what I want to do is I want to make this a 2-lane road. Right now it's a 1-lane road because I had some space constraints, and I figured no one's going to notice if it's only 1 lane. So we're going to make that a 2-lane road, but to do that, I've got to get rid of this little hill right here, which is just Styrofoam and Sculpt-A-Mold. I imagine that's going to come off pretty easy. But here's another thing. This module comes all the way out here and sort of sticks out like a sore thumb right there. And that doesn't make Daddy happy. What I want to do is go through with my Sawzall and cut this off back to, well, maybe about here. Because if I cut it too close to the tunnel portal, I'm going to have the same problem I had back when I upgraded the logging camp. And that is that tunnel portal is going to be just hanging off in the breeze somewhere. And that doesn't make me very happy at all. And, you know, this episode apparently is about making me happy. So I'm going to get my Sawzall out, and we're just going to start back here. We're just going to cut along. And like most things, I just sort of make this up as I go along. So we're going to just sort of stick the saw in right here. And have a go. Ha! I suddenly realized something. I got this piece of wood right here that needs to come off so that it lines up with that edge. So I'm going to just see what happens. There's some screws that hold it in. Take the screws out. See if the hammer will get that sucker. Well, let's move the piece of the model out of the way. You know how many times I've done that? I'm ashamed to admit it. So I'm not going to admit it. Well, look at that. Came off in one piece. Scenery and everything. But the problem is, it's leaving my tunnel portal right out there where I don't want it. Well, guess what? Tunnel portal. That's where you're going to be. Let's clean this edge up. You afraid I'm going to cut my hand right now? You're probably right. Okay, so with all that cutting done and that whole area prepared for the new road, I went ahead and put in the lower plane. I did that using a single piece of extruded foam board, and I used the old approximate, cut, fit, and repeat technique. I just marked it out with a Sharpie, scored it with the X-Acto knife, snapped it, then stuffed it in there, see how it fit, made some changes here and there. And once I was happy with it, I went through and glued it down. I first glued it way back here in the back to the layout to hold it in place. But then up here, I used hot glue to glue it to the benchwork, pushed it down, held it for a while until it's set up, and it's still pretty strong. It's just sitting there really nice. I also went through underneath and put these extruded foam board risers on here as supports. Now here's the thing, I'm digging this hot glue gun technique for setting the extruded foam board. Man, it's awesome. The problem is it doesn't work so good with this white beaded styrofoam. I put the glue on there and I set the pieces in place, and then later on they just came right off. They weren't held on there very well at all. So I went back to our friend the Gorilla Glue and put it in. This has had about 24 hours to set up, and as you can see, it's pretty solid, and that's pretty awesome. But what I ended up doing was just taking pieces and cutting them and gluing them down to follow the approximate radius of this switch junction lead coming down through the 5% grade. Later on, what I'm going to do is go ahead and just sort of shape that down a little bit, give it some contour, and sort of cutting, doing some junk to it. I don't know, it'll be fun. I might actually get a hot wire knife to do that. Wouldn't that be amazing? So that is how that got put in. And then as you can see, I went through it, I put these ancillary pieces in, kind of made a little road valley here. And ultimately, what I think we're gonna see coming up here is in this section right here, I'm gonna have sort of an old weathered paved road, asphalt paved road that comes around through here. And then off of that road, there will be a dirt road that comes up to, da-da, my fruit orchard loading facility. Now here's the thing, this little guy right here, this used to be my sawmill back before we did the logging camp upgrade, and then I just sort of had it hanging out in Switch Junction for a while, and then it was in Brownsville, and so now it's actually a really cool structure. I scratch built it, I love it. I'm gonna just let it sit right here and be the loading facility that truck is being loaded from. I'm also going to include some LED lighting in this stuff, some fiber optic junk by the time we're done, because our new rule, every structure gets lighting unless it's not appropriate to be lit up. Anyway, that's how I did all that work. You guys have seen me cut styrofoam and glue it together before, so I don't want to bore you with this lengthy episode just showing you that. But the finished product, in my opinion, is looking pretty sweet. Back up in here, we're gonna have the orchard loading facility. We'll have the cows way up in the upper plane, and cars and trucks just driving through on the paved road. Gonna look totally cool, in my opinion. Next time, what I think we'll try to do is try to tie all of this in now to make the mountainous mountain. How's that for technical? Up in the back, paving the way for us to carve all that up and then cover it with sculpting mold. So anyway, this is the kind of stuff we do here on It's My Railroad. So if you haven't subscribed already, why not just do it right now? Make sure you like and share this video with somebody, and then, what was I gonna say? And thank you again so much for being with me here today on It's My Railroad. And until next time, my name is Steve Brown. Rail on, my friends.